Yeah, the Indiana Fever finally get in the win column in their second game of the season, and Caitlin Clark put on a dazzling performance minus the 3-point shot. We got to get into it. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification to hype the video. That'd be greatly appreciated.
A win is a win. That is what they tell you. That is what the casual fan posts on social media when the final buzzer sounds and the scoreboard shows their team on the right side of the ledger. A win is a win. Pull up the highlight reel, post the celebration clips, and move on. But here is the problem with that logic when it applies to the Indiana Fever right now. Not every win is created equal. Not every victory is a sign of progress. Some wins are band-aids stretched over broken bones, and if you are not paying close enough attention, you will miss the fracture entirely while celebrating the bandage. The Indiana Fever finally got into the win column in Game 2 of the 2025 WNBA season. Caitlin Clark put on a dazzling performance, threading backdoor passes, pushing pace in transition, and finishing with 24 points and 9 official assists. Indiana walked out of Crypto.com Arena with their first W of the year. The scoreboard said victory, but the tape said something else entirely. This win came loaded with more red flags than a finish line at the Daytona 500, and if the organization, the coaching staff, and the fan base are not willing to have an honest conversation about what those red flags actually mean, the Indiana Fever are going to spend another season being celebrated for potential that never fully converts into results. So today on Keep the Vision, we are going deep. We are going past the highlights. We are going past the celebration posts and into the actual substance of what happened in Los Angeles, what it reveals about this team's structure, and what absolutely must change before this roster reaches the ceiling everyone believes it has. Stick around. The numbers behind Caitlin Clark's 24-point, 9-assist performance reveal a problem that nobody in mainstream media wants to talk about, and we are going to talk about it. Let us start with the most basic, most fundamental question about this game. Who did the Indiana Fever just beat? The Los Angeles Sparks, a team that in their season opener lost to the Golden State Valkyries by 22 points. The Valkyries are an expansion franchise in their first season of existence. They are a brand new organization built from scratch, and the Sparks lost to them by more than 3 possessions. That is the team that the Fever just barely escaped with a 9-point victory against. Let that sit for a second. Really let it breathe. The Indiana Fever, a team with arguably the most talented young backcourt in the entire WNBA, a team with a former Rookie of the Year at center, a team that invested serious money in veterans and depth, walked into Los Angeles and needed a gritty, unconvincing 9-point effort to beat a squad that an expansion team already embarrassed by triple digits a few days earlier. The Fever should have been up 25 by halftime. That is not hyperbole. That is just an honest assessment of the talent differential on paper. Instead, Kelsey Plum caught fire in the fourth quarter. The Sparks went on a genuine run that had Fever fans legitimately nervous, and Indiana scraped and clawed their way to a final margin that does not in any way reflect how superior this roster is supposed to be. 9 points over the worst team in the Western Conference. That is the win everybody is out here celebrating. That should bother you deeply because it suggests that the problems this team had on opening night against the Chicago Sky are not aberrations. They are patterns, and patterns do not fix themselves. Now let us talk about Caitlin Clark because she deserves both the credit and the honest analysis simultaneously. The performance was genuinely impressive in almost every dimension except one. 24 points, 9 official assists, 4 rebounds. She was the engine of everything Indiana tried to do offensively, and anyone watching the game with even a basic understanding of basketball could see that the official assist number was nowhere near the real story. Backdoor passes to Kelsey Mitchell. Skip passes across the floor to Sophie Cunningham. Drop-offs in transition that put teammates in perfect position for uncontested layups at the rim. This is the part of Caitlin Clark's game that highlight reels consistently undersell. The passing IQ is not just good for her age or good for a guard her size. It is legitimately generational. She sees angles and windows that most players do not even recognize exist. She is processing the entire floor in real time while defenders are trying to take away her shot, and she is finding the right read with consistency that would make veteran point guards envious. Anyone watching this game with a notepad counted somewhere between 16 and 17 possessions where Clark put a teammate in perfect position for a straightforward bucket. 16 to 17 possessions. The official box score credited her with 9 assists. The gap between those two numbers tells you everything you need to know about this team's finishing problem right now. The Indiana Fever shot 41% on layups as a team, 41% at the rim. On shots that do not require a defender to be out of position, do not require a perfect release point, do not require elite athleticism. Just catch the ball in rhythm and finish the shot you are already set up for. 41%. That is an absolute crisis-level number, and it directly suppressed what Clark's assist total should have been. If those layups go in at a league average rate, we're talking about a point guard finishing with 17, maybe 18 assists on a night where she also scored 24 points. The conversation after this game would have been completely different. Instead, her teammates blew at least 7 legitimate gimme buckets at the rim, and the dominant narrative became her three-point shooting struggles, which is exactly the wrong takeaway. Because here is the truth about the three-point shot. It is a problem right now, and it is a problem worth monitoring closely. Through the first 2 games of the 2025 season, Caitlin Clark is shooting 22% from beyond the arc. 22%. For context and for perspective, as a rookie last season, she shot 34% from deep on nearly 9 attempts per game. The attempts are still there. The volume has not dropped. 16 attempts across 2 games is right in line with what we expect from her approach. The accuracy is gone, and the specific texture of the make she has recorded is deeply telling. Every single three-pointer Caitlin Clark has made this season has been a catch-and-shoot attempt. Not one pull-up, not one step back, not one of the off-the-dribble bombs from 28 feet in transition that broke NCAA records and made her genuinely unguardable in certain stretches last season. That is not random variance. That is a strategic footprint, and it leads directly to a conversation about the head coach. Stephanie White was hired for real, legitimate reasons. Her track record developing perimeter scorers is documented. Her familiarity with the Fever organization runs deep. She took this franchise to a finals appearance in 2015, and she understands the culture and the expectations that come with coaching in Indianapolis. So with all of that acknowledged and respected, someone needs to explain why the offense looks the way it currently looks. Explain why a team with this many capable shooters is running next to zero structured off-ball action on a significant portion of their possessions. Explain why Aliyah Boston, a player whose entire collegiate reputation was built on low post dominance at South Carolina, is being deployed primarily as a high post hub and elbow operator rather than a genuine interior threat. Explain why the most lethal version of Caitlin Clark, the one pulling up from deep in transition before defenses can get set, appears to have been deliberately removed from the offensive design. Stephanie White appears to be running a controlled, deliberate half-court offensive system that prioritizes spacing and catch and shoot opportunities over the kind of frenetic pace and off-the-dribble creation that makes Clark genuinely difficult to game plan against. That is a strategic choice, and coaches make those choices for reasons. But when the result is that your most dangerous weapon is being limited to the least explosive version of her own skill set, you have to ask whether the strategy is actually serving the personnel or working against it. Caitlin Clark is at her absolute best when she is pushing pace, reading the defense before it gets organized, and pulling up from 28 feet before a defender can even think about closing out. Remove that element from her game, and you have removed half of what makes her genuinely unguardable on any given possession. The coaching staff needs to look at that reality honestly, because the X's and O's on film right now are not matching the talent that is available on this roster. This part of the conversation is uncomfortable. It needs to be said anyway. Aliyah Boston is not currently the player the Indiana Fever drafted her to be. The hands are good. The footwork in post situations is technically sound. The basketball intelligence is evident. But the results on the floor through 2 games have been genuinely difficult to defend for a player earning franchise center money in a market that is counting on her to be a reliable secondary option next to a generational point guard. 6 fouls in 19-something minutes. 0 points in the first half. 4 total rebounds against a team starting Ray Burrell at the 4. Cameron Brink and Derica Hamby, 2 players the Sparks are relying on as developmental pieces, combined to outwork Boston in the paint in terms of physical presence and impact. That is not a one-possession anomaly. That is a performance that raises real structural questions. The advanced metrics from last season pointed towards something that the box score numbers were obscuring. Her usage rate dropped meaningfully after Caitlin Clark arrived in Indiana. Her field goal percentage on post-up attempts hovered in the low 40s. For a player getting paid what she is getting paid, Next to a point guard who can create clean catch opportunities from almost any position on the floor, those numbers represent a sustainability problem. Part of this falls on the coaching staff. If you are going to pay a center like a franchise interior presence, you have to actually use her like one. Parking Boston at the elbow and the three-point line for entire possessions is not developing her game. It is wasting her most natural skills while simultaneously making the offense easier to defend, because the defense does not have to account for genuine post threat. But part of this falls on Boston herself. Conditioning is visibly an issue in second halves of games. The physicality required to hold position against quality WNBA 4s and 5s for full games requires a body that is built for that specific demand. And right now, that is a legitimate question mark heading deeper into the season. Let us talk about Kelsey Mitchell, because this is the conversation that generates the most heat and is therefore the one that most people avoid. 23 points on 17 shots. That sounds like a productive night from a quality scorer coming off the bench or playing a complementary role. The problem is that Mitchell played 27 minutes and finished with 0 rebounds and 0 assists. None. Not one rebound in 27 minutes of professional basketball. Not one assist. Not one possession where she made a decision that prioritized a teammate's bucket over her own shot attempt. That is a video game stat line in the most negative sense of that phrase. It represents a player who, regardless of how efficient or inefficient her scoring was on a given night, is treating every possession she touches as a personal scoring opportunity rather than a team possession with multiple possible correct outcomes. Look at the championship caliber backcourts in this league. Look at the New York Liberty with Sabrina Ionescu alongside Courtney Vandersloot. Look at the Las Vegas Aces with Chelsea Gray operating next to Jackie Young. In every single case that you identify as a winning model, both guards pass, both guards rebound, and both guards play winning basketball with or without the ball in their hands. The workload is genuinely distributed. Kelsey Mitchell is a microwave scorer and a genuinely gifted bucket getter when she is rolling. That skill set has real value. But on a team built around a point guard who sees the floor as well as anyone in the league, a two-guard who treats the basketball as a possession that ends with her shot is not complementing that vision. She is actively disrupting it. And with a veteran extension that carries real financial commitment, the expectation has to be that she grows beyond being purely a stat line hunter. Now for the honest counterbalance to all of that, because this team did show real flashes of what the ceiling can look like when the pieces operate correctly. Monique Billings, signed in the offseason after years with the Atlanta Dream, came into her Fever debut and immediately looked like she understood her assignment. 9 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 for 1 from 3. But more importantly, watch the decision-making on the defensive glass. Get the rebound, identify Caitlin Clark, deliver the outlet pass, and clear the lane. That is the entire job description for a power forward on this team, and Billings executed it naturally and consistently in her very first game wearing the uniform. This is a stark and instructive contrast to what the Fever got from Natasha Howard on opening night, when Howard repeatedly retrieved defensive rebounds and initiated offense herself, rather than immediately funneling the ball to the player best equipped to run the team. Billings does not do that. She knows who the quarterback is, and she acts accordingly. That kind of basketball intelligence has genuine impact on wins and losses. Sophie Cunningham added 12 points and 7 rebounds while playing the most aggressive and effective perimeter defense on the floor all night. She was everywhere. She communicated on switches. She contested shots without fouling in situations where lesser defenders give up easy points. Those two players, Billings and Cunningham, were the primary reason the Fever survived the fourth quarter run the Sparks put together rather than collapsing under it. The Washington Mystics come to Indianapolis next, and on paper this should be a comfortable home victory. Sonia Citron, Kiki Iriafen, and the top 10 draft picks the Mystics selected are developing players on a rebuilding roster. The Fever should win that game by 20 points. But if Indiana goes out and squeezes another single-digit survival win against Washington while Aliyah Boston fouls out again, while the layup conversion rate stays in the 40s, while Kelsey Mitchell finishes with 0 assists, and while the offense continues to look like a collection of individual possessions rather than a coherent system, then the conversation about this coaching staff has to change in tone and urgency, because the talent is unquestionably present on this roster. This is not a situation where the players available are not good enough to compete. The issue is structural. It is identity. It is accountability. It is veterans getting paid above market money who are not currently being held to above market standards. And it is a head coach who appears to be managing around individual personalities rather than installing the system that best serves what this team can actually become. Here is the full picture that nobody on television is willing to assemble and present honestly. The Indiana Fever are 1-1. Their loss was not competitive. Their win was unconvincing. Their best player is shooting 22% from three and has not made a single pull-up three-point shot all season. Their franchise center is picking up 6 fouls in under 20 minutes against subpar competition. Their veteran two-guard is playing 27 minutes without recording a single rebound or assist. And underneath all of that, Caitlin Clark is out there throwing 17 assist caliber games that get credited as 9 because the players around her cannot finish at the rim. A win is a win. But some wins tell you the truth about what a team actually is. And right now, the Indiana Fever are a roster with championship-level potential that is being limited by execution failures, structural offensive problems, and accountability gaps that need to be addressed loudly and immediately. The Mystics game on Friday is not just a game. It is a referendum on whether this team is capable of absorbing the lessons from their first 2 performances, or whether they will continue dressing up survival victories as progress. We will be watching every minute of it right here on Keep the Vision. If you made it this far, make sure you like the video, drop a comment with your answer to the question of the day, subscribe to the channel, share this with every Fever fan in your circle, and hit that bell notification so you never miss an upload. The WNBA season is just getting started, and the Indiana Fever are about to be the most analyzed story in basketball all year long. We are just getting started.